Hello, I'm your host Jim McClean. Welcome back to another episode of the Banterflix movie review show here on NVTV. Let's see what we'll be talking about tonight. We'll be reviewing Freakier Friday, starring Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis, along with A24's latest horror, Bring Her Back. Both of those movies are out in cinemas now. And we'll wrap up with this week's Pick of the Streams, Amazon Prime's latest adaptation of War of the Worlds, starring Ice Cube. So that's what we've lined up for you in a rather freaky edition of the show this evening. So joining me here in the studio is Hamish Calvert.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, and I'm guessing Dr. Nicole Hamilton.
Hi, Jim.
Okay, we're going to go get a medium to sort this out, but before we do that, let's talk about some movie news.
Hey, Magic Mirror, who's the fairest of them all?
Why, Shrek, of course.
Ah!
Ew, Dad!
Ooh, Mama light.
Who's making this stuff?
Not me!
Whoa!
Shrek 5, starring Mike Myers, Eddie Murphy, Cameron Diaz, and Zendaya? Oh, damn. Only in theaters, Christmas 2026.
So that's a look at the trailer for Shrek 5. Now, I'm not quite sure how far we got into that trailer. It did promise us that that film was going to be released next year. Now, I know it's hot weather, we're sweaty, we maybe don't have enough water inside our bodies to muster up some tears, but sadly, DreamWorks has announced that the next installment in the Shrek franchise, Shrek 5, I had forgotten there was a 4. I'd possibly even forgotten there was a third one as well. But that is now going to be delayed until 2027. So I'm going to guess and hope this is correct. Hamish, are you disappointed by this? Are you a fan of the Shrek franchise? Zendaya is going to be showing up this time round.
Am I a fan of the Shrek franchise? Well, is water wet? I think it's one of the best franchises we have, and to hear that the next installment has been delayed is devastating. Thankfully, we have a good stockpile of Shrek memes to keep us going in the interim, but it's going to be a long wait, I think.
It's going to be a long wait. Hamish should be pleased to know, I think at the Edinburgh Fringe at the minute, there's Shrek Burlesque. So I think we are at maximum Shrekage, if that's a word right now to tide us over. Nicole, are you intrigued with this? Are you looking forward to another outing with Shrek and Donkey? Are you prepared to wait to 2027?
I don't know if I am. I'm devastated really that it's not coming for another 2 years. I had actually forgotten that there was a fourth one as well. I think I've seen it, but not entirely sure. So maybe I will have to use that to tide me over, or just rewatch the whole franchise. I say as if that's not a yearly thing anyway.
Okay, well, as I say, we will have to wait and see. And while we go now and all book collectively our tickets for the Shrek Burlesque in Edinburgh, let's move on and talk about some movies we've seen at the cinema.
Morning.
Happy wedding week.
You have a lot on your plate. Let us know how we can help.
Maybe someone could help me write my wedding vows.
How about this?
I, Anna, take you, Eric, a man whose daughter is a little demon thing with an obnoxious accent.
What is taking so long? We wouldn't want to be off schedule, innit? My bachelorette party will be good bonding for everyone.
You two are called to be family.
Yeah, right. Don't remind me.
You walked in each other's path. You learned a lesson that may serve you again.
Okay, that's enough.
Thank you very much.
One more thing. Right over there is a QR code that you can tip me with. Change the hearts you know are wrong to reach the place where you belong.
Oh my God, what is happening? Okay, it's who am I? It's me. It's Mom. If you're me and I'm you, then who's that? I'm Grandma, sweetheart. Yeah.
So that's a look at Freakier Friday. It's out in cinemas now. I think 2006 was the original kind of remake that was out with Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan. I think we had in the 70s, there was the version with Jodie Foster in one of the roles in that film. I'm more familiar with that as opposed to the 2000 and the noughties version. I guess it just missed me by. But now we have original cast members coming back. And this time we've not just doubled the trouble, but we've quadrupled the trouble. There's multiple swapping going on. We have cross-generational body swapping going on as two families become one. Hamish. I'm sure it's Hamish now. We've resolved that problem from earlier on, but what did you think of this?
Well, I am most familiar with the 2006 version. I watched that and I don't have a particular attachment to it, but I remember watching it and having a good time with it. I think when I saw this was announced, I sort of thought it was inevitable. I think Jamie Lee Curtis has talked about it a lot in interviews, saying she wouldn't be prepared to do it until Lindsay Lohan was old enough to have her own daughter for the story. So I sort of knew it was coming, but when I saw it was actually here, there's a bit of an eye roll, a bit of a I'm not sure that there's anything really there to warrant this. It feels very nostalgia bait, and I don't like legacy sequels as it is.
Please, Hamish, requels.
Requels. But I think especially when they're like this and they just retread the exact same storyline from the first film, honestly, I think it would have been almost better as a remake because it's so similar. I think, as you mentioned, they have the four-way body swap now, and I think the problem with that is you have to be engaged enough to want to keep up with it. And when all four aren't on screen together and maybe one of them is off talking to a character who hasn't had their body swapped, you sort of have to sort of jog your memory and think, who's in whose body and what's their motive here? And in a film like this, you don't want to have to be doing any mental arithmetic. So I think that's the issue with it. It doesn't have any originality. And in a film like this, it needs to be fun, and I didn't have any fun. I found it quite depressing. Just the lack of anything new or exciting, and just the willingness to repeat what's already been done. The finale's the exact same as the first one, and I think it didn't give me that fun Friday feeling. It was closer to the Sunday Scaries for me.
Okay, well, if we weren't in the middle of a heat wave, I would reach over, Hamish, and give you a hug, because I'm sad that you didn't have fun at the cinema. I, like you, was very skeptical about this in that sense of in the idea that I hate using this term, but I know that there's producers and the big wigs at Disney will refer to this or believe this as content and IP, and it's something that will get bums on seats. Because why go for something original? Well, we can just rehash what we've done before. Yes, they do that, but unlike you, I did find myself having fun in the cinema in comparison to the Naked Gun movie, which I have seen twice. First time I thought was perfectly fine. The second time was like that moment of shock horror. What have I watched? It's like, this is not as funny as I remember. Maybe I'll have that problem with this. Maybe it was just, as we always say, that idea, the mood you go in, you bring what your experiences, your day you're having, what's happened brings in. But I had fun with this. And the key thing I think for me is that this movie reminded me of the Lindsay Lohan that as a younger actress we loved on screen. It's the closest I think we've seen to that in a while. She's been in the kind of Netflix Christmas movie limbo. She may or may not pop up in Mean Girls the musical very briefly. I can't think of anything else I've seen her in off late. This reminded me of her, but more importantly as well, as someone who loves horror, I love Jamie Lee Curtis. She is a scream queen. But it also, a film like this reminds you, she has serious comedy chops. In the same way when I watched the Ab Fab movie, when you see Joanna Lumley, you go, there's someone who has comedy chops. I didn't love that film either, but I enjoyed her performance. So I had fun. There was gags to be had, and it's that film where the screening I was at, it wasn't full, but there was enough jokes for different generations. There's jokes about old people. I think there's a great joke about Facebook. It's just a list of old people. I enjoyed it. I had fun. Nicole, where are you going to weigh in on this? Hamish didn't have fun. We do feel the need that after this recording, we may have to collectively give him a hug. So I'm going to hope that I don't have to give you a hug as well. I hope you enjoyed your time at the cinema.
I really did. Actually, much like Hamish, I don't have a huge attachment to the original in Lindsay Lohan's over it. I'm more of a Mean Girls, The Parent Trap sort of a person. Freaky Friday's just never been one that I really gravitated towards. So I went into this just hoping that I was going to enjoy it. And I came out of it actually thinking, wow, that was actually really fun. It is definitely the Lindsay Lohan, Jamie Lee Curtis show, in my opinion. I think whenever they're on screen together, they shine so much. And you just see the chemistry that works between these two actors and the like synergy between them. The younger actors, I did feel when it was their scenes just together, I sort of fell out of it a little bit. I was kind of hoping we could go back to the others a bit quicker. But overall, I had a really, really good time. And ordinarily, I would agree with you that there's no point to something like this that is just rehashing, like beat for beat, the same sort of plot points. But for some reason with this one, I just didn't mind. I just was along for the ride with it. And it really didn't hurt that Elaine Hendricks made a lovely appearance that I didn't know about, so I was thrilled.
Well, there we go. Everyone's win-win apart from Hamish in this front. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Yes, it's a rehash of what we've seen before, but it's not another superhero movie. And speaking of someone who liked the recent Superman movie, wasn't fussed on Fantastic Four, I was kind of watching it going, they don't make films like this anymore. Probably that's because they're all remade and that's probably why. But I find it fun, and maybe, as I always say at the minute, in a similar vein, as I kind of talked a little bit about with Naked Gun, yeah, it's silly. We kind of need, I guess in the world that we live in right now, maybe a little bit of silliness. If a film can at least put a smile on your face, it's doing a pretty decent job. But by the signs of it, Hamish, it didn't do that for you.
No, it didn't. I think I do love Lindsay Lohan. I think she's great, and I'm loving this renaissance of Lindsay Lohan, and long may it continue. But this was just a little blip in it for me, and I hope that there'll be bigger and better things waiting for her.
There's no stopping the Lohanescence. Definitely not front anyway. But with that, I think we'll move on to another movie that's still out in cinemas. It was released a couple of weeks ago. Something very different from the movie we just talked about.
How did you cope with Kathy being gone?
I didn't.
This is my new sister and brother, Oliver. Oliver lost his family just like you guys. Needed someone that could give him special care. Listen, I've got to tell you a secret. Listen. It's like a little angel. It's a beautiful angel. It does beautiful things.
So that's a look at the trailer for Bring Her Back, out in cinemas now, starring Sally Hawkins in a very unsettling performance. I have to very, very on Sally Hawkins' performance. She's not Paddington's proxy mother this time round. As an actor, I absolutely love. Great to see her doing something different. It's a hard one to talk too much about without venturing into spoilerific territory, but we have two young siblings being sent to foster care with Sally Hawkins' character, and unsettling, bizarre, creepy things ensue. Very different from Freakier Friday. So I'm tempted to come to you first, Hamish, to see if you had more fun watching this than Freakier Friday, but Dr. Nicole, as one of our horror experts here within our ranks, I'll come to you first. So this is the follow-up to the directorial duo's previous feature, Talk to Me. So were you a fan of that film? Are you looking forward to this? And what did you think?
I liked Talk to Me. I didn't love it. I thought that it did everything that it set out to do quite well, but for some reason it just sort of didn't click into place for me. I think maybe it's the sort of film that is very like horror as metaphor for grief, or grief as a metaphor for horror. And this is also very much that as well. but for some reason this one worked a lot better for me actually. So I was tentatively excited. I was hoping that I was going to like this one more, and I definitely did. It just, the emotional beats hit a lot stronger for me this time. The tension really was just sort of amped up from pretty much the word go. And I had a really, I'm not going to say a fun time, but I had an interesting time sort of trying to work out where the plot was going, how I kind of, based on the title, started to figure out sort of where we were going, but how we were going to get there was always sort of a mystery, and if we were going to get there. So I had a good time, although I was slightly traumatized.
I wouldn't say enjoying or fun is not the word I would go with this film, but I thought, as someone who loves horror, I thought it was fab to see, no pun intended, considering there is a sequence involving a worktop. It's a horror film with teeth that gets in there, crawls, and I always talk about that idea of a horror movie that works. It crawls under your skin and stays there. It's a film you find yourself, I found since watching, I've found myself thinking about. It's also a film that after watching, I did have to go home and put the Muppets on just to cheer my mood. As I say, Sally Hawkins is fantastic in it. I thought she was great. I want to see more of those kind of performances from her. Even, dare I say, at this stage, I would love to see some, maybe not awards, but nominations for that performance. Bringing it back, Nicole, just to what you mentioned with Talk to Me, I would agree with you in that sense that film, it worked, I think, until its final resolution and got to its final place. I think it lost itself. It's interesting to see that the directors are talking, or possibly working on a sequel to that. They have ideas, but they don't know whether they want to go with that or want to go with something different. Personally, I'd like to see them go something else. I think this works from start, finish, middle, end. This work as a much more complete package, and I just think right now, when we've got weapons in the cinema, we've had 28 years later recently, it's not a bad time to be a horror fan. Hamish, I think previously when we've had you on the show, I don't know if you are a massive horror fan. Maybe I'm misremembering, but you had a miserable time at the cinema with Freakier Friday. So how is this working out with Bring Her Back as a double bill for you?
Well, amazingly, my mood was much higher coming out of Bring Her Back. I did take that as you will, depending on which movie. But no, I agree with everything you've said. I think it's a brilliant film, and I am a big horror fan, but I'm a bit of a wimp, which is probably what you remembered. So I get scared very easily. But what I liked about this is it really has a good mix of your stereotypical jump scares, no horrors without them, and then you also have really visceral body horror, prosthetics, practical effects, things that you really wince at. It's not the surprise that gets you, it's what you're actually seeing happen. And I think because a lot of the characters are children, it's just immediately more disturbing watching them go through these horrors. And I think I agree with you as well about Talk to Me, and I think where this one is so much better is Sally Hawkins. You have a star attached to your film. She is fantastic. The things her character does are horrendous, horrific, and you can't sympathise with her, but she gets so into the humanity of the character that there become these horrific beats are side by side with these emotional beats, and it means you're simultaneously scared and you also feel this deep sadness as well. So it is a really sad film, it's really horrific, but it's just all tied together by Sally Hawkins, and she is brilliant in it, and I agree she does deserve awards. I think it's just from the start, that's a really clever misdirection in terms of casting. Like you say, she's known as Paddington's mum, she's Mrs. Brown, she's played all these, she's done a lot of other things as well, but that's what she's known for, her twee innocent roles. So to come in and do something like this is just brilliant from everyone involved. It's a great casting choice, and I think it's paid off dividends for them. Really, really good. Yeah, I thought she's fab. I want to see her do more of these kind of things. Sally, if you're watching, please do more of these things. Pick up the phone for those kind of projects. For me, the one thing I was thinking about, just with what we've been talking about here, is like a film like this, you can see the influence
of Don't Look Now still in films like this, and that idea of kind of how grief can leave its mark and alters our perceptions of things. Because Sally Hawkins, I guess it's a discussion we don't have time for now this evening, maybe picking up on the podcast, if anyone listens, pick it up on the podcast where we can have a longer chat about it at some point. The idea she does villainous things, but not necessarily a villain of sorts, possibly a victim of being a victim of manipulation. But as I say, that is a discussion possibly for another day. With that, we're going to move from the big screen to something you can watch at home.
Dad, have you seen this? Have you seen this?
Can you tell yet what they're comprised of?
No, sir. I've never seen anything like this.
Eyewitness video is coming in from all over the world. Terrifying machines rising out of these meteors.
Get away from that! Get out of there!
So that's a look at War of the Worlds, available now on Amazon Prime, with its staggering 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, depending on whether you put much gravitas to ratings on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm not quite sure what its score is on IMDb. So this is dropped onto Amazon Prime streaming service with very little fanfare. I think this was filmed back in 2020, so kind of you're looking at kind of COVID in the era. We have social distancing in play, but here is an adaptation of H.G. Wells' War of the World, told through a shared screen experience. I remember when I first heard about this, I was genuinely intrigued. And it's like, oh, okay, we have Ice Cube in that role. You're going to go with something very different. Then I watched the movie. And I am not someone who takes perverse pleasure in watching bad movies. I will say this, I think, my heart of hearts, I have watched worse movies over the years. But this was just, for me, a film that just, I don't know. I've watched this last week and I'm still, to an extent, slightly lost for words. Hamish, you've had a mixed bag this week at your trips to the cinema. How was your viewing experience at home watching War of the Worlds?
Well, I think I have to start with a message for Eva Longoria. If you are being held against your will, please blink twice. Because I'm not sure what she or any of the other cast members are doing in this movie, if it can even be called a movie. And this is the thing, these Screen Life films, they can work well. I think the Unfriended horror series did them quite well. Some effective scares and use of screens there. The searching and missing, those thrillers, they actually play out quite well within this format. But I don't understand why a War of the Worlds story, this grand worldwide event, a story of this scale, should not be reduced to a shared screen.
I would argue with you on that front, because I would say we've had that version already. We had the classic kind of 50s version, which I have a real soft spot for, really schlocky sci-fi. When I think of the Martians attacking, that's the craft I think of. We had the Spielberg version, which had its big screen spectacle, and in true Spielberg fashion, family was front and centre in there as well. This tries to mush, in its weird way, those together. My thing about it is, and it's the same, I'm anal on these kind of things when it's a found footage movie. In the sense, there's rules that you find yourself in. You mentioned films like Missing and Searching, they all get that, and there's something kind of weirdly kind of relaxing about watching people working on their computer. It's the fact that I don't know many webcams that can do crash zooms. And it looked like a film that was using that type of trope to excuse a low budget, low special effects. There is an interesting idea in there. It's just the fact, and it's not a spoiler. Well, it is a spoiler, I apologise. But this time, the Martians are coming from our data. They're coming for our data, so beware, hold your phones close, beware and double check your data plan. That was just the thing for me. And coming back to that family element, it's that kind of ultra contrived that everybody within this one family is somehow going to save the world. It just, as I say, I cut across you just because I do think if you were going to do War of the Worlds, as someone who's been through those various versions and the TV show from I think the 80s, 90s, which was pretty schlocky in its own right as well, I think doing that is an interesting, different way to do it. We have to put it in context. Filmed during COVID, we had social distancing. It's just the execution is very, very poor. So would you, do you not think you could have done a War of the Worlds? And I know, Nicole, you're chomping at the bit to come in, but do you not think, Hamish, you could have done an interesting version of War of the Worlds in this way?
I think the interesting part of this is in the film, but they've got the perspective wrong. I think what would be more interesting is following Eva Longoria's character, the NASA scientist, and seeing her on the ground. And you do see that through the screen, but it's not the same as, I think it's much less interesting to be watching it through Ice Cube's eyes in his boring office with no one else in it. So I think there is there's a change of perspective would be interesting, and it is there in the film, but the way they do it just doesn't work. And when you have Ice Cube then just learning things and then having to say them out loud to himself as the exposition, it just all very quickly falls apart, and that's before you even get to the obscene product placement. So yeah, just a disaster all round.
Are we going to make it 3 for 3? Are you again War of the Worlds? Are you going to reveal yourself now on NVTV to say, hey, I've got Ice Cube's back? I love this film.
If Eva Longoria was the main character, I would happily say that I have her back. Unfortunately, she's not the main character, so no, whenever the movie started, I thought, okay, it's not as bad as everybody's saying it is. It's fine. I've seen much worse. And then it just kept going. And I think it sort of becomes extremely clear that the movie's medium is born out of necessity rather than wanting to have an interesting take on War of the Worlds. Like you, I do think that there's a possibility for this sort of a story to be translated in an interesting way through the shared screen sort of narrative tool. Here, as I said, it feels like they did it because they had to. They didn't have another option. And I don't think I could be completely wrong, but it doesn't feel like there was a lot of thought put into how can we engage the audience using this. And it ends up sort of, for me, feeling very detached from the action. Like War of the Worlds has never been, I am an H.G. Wells fan. War of the Worlds has never been my favourite of his novels. So I like the other adaptations of the book. I don't love them, but I feel like this one could have done something unique and different, but chose not to, and removes you from anything that could have made it actually quite interesting. So unfortunately, yeah, it's a no from me. And although I really did enjoy Ice Cube shouting at his screen, I find that quite funny.
Hey, if anyone's going to shout, I got you, on the screen to me on a Friday evening, after I've had a long day at work, who else will you want it to be but Ice Cube? So yeah, I think a mixed bag all round this week. As I say, Hamish, I'm still sorry that you didn't enjoy Freakier Friday. Maybe when it's remade again in several years' time, maybe again with Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis, who knows? Maybe you'll enjoy it more the next time. And Nicole, I don't know how to feel about when you say you had a fun time with
No, I said I enjoyed it. I didn't have a fun time.
Okay, well that's good to clarify as we wrap up this show. So all is really left for me to do now this evening, and I'm hoping our body swapping shenanigans has finished for now, is to thank my two guests. So thank you very much, Hamish.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you very much, Nicole.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching. We'll be back next week with another episode, but the lovely Adam Neeson will be in the chair because I'm at the Edinburgh International Film Festival. But for now, until then, Goodbye.